We are recording. Start.
Start.
Start. I actually had little notes in the Canva, but I was too busy chatting and singing that, so I didn't. I didn't actually. They're not lots of notes. Oh, don't get too excited. It's just at the top there.
It's too late. I'm already extremely excited.
And there's just I just went and put some notes there. I was just like,
Ooh,
so that
Vin
I
becoming nobility.
Yeah. Yes.
Nobility Visca. Schemes all around. Fantastic. I wrote notes this time.
Woo! Yeah.
But I ADHD'd halfway through and stopped writing them. So we'll see what I can remember of the second half of this chapter.
High notes taken in the first few pages. Okay, you know what we do? This is look. I even changed the script up here for us. We are prepared.
Excellent. Also, I have to share that this is a low-key, exciting chapter to record.
Mm-hmm.
The word low-key is pulling a lot of weight here. We have officially made it far enough into this series that I went out and bought the second book in the trilogy.
That is too tempting. Oh my goodness. Well, no, it's fine. I would be okay to just put it on the shelf and look at it.
Yeah, it's sitting right over there.
Is it the blue version? Is it like what edition? Just hold on. Where?
It's the Tor Fantasy one. So the same as the first one that I got. It's
okay.
There seems to be a broken plate and a blue ball with blue light. I assume that's...
Mine is Dragonsteel Entertainment. Orion Publishing. There we go. An imprint of Orion Publishing Group. Yeah, mine's I don't know which of our editions. Yeah, let me just put my camera on. So it's not like this one.
No.
Lame. No, I'm kidding.
Let me.
This is what the others look like.
Ooh.
Yeah.
Fancy. I like your copy.
Yeah.
I'm sending
you a photo
of mine. I don't have my camera plugged
in. It's okay. So now you can send a photo.
So I'm gonna. Yeah.
Okay, wait, let's go. We didn't even do the intro.
Hello, and welcome to the No One Asked You podcast. For this particular series, I am joined by my wonderful co-host,
ThatDarnKitteh.
Kitteh and I are both going into this story completely new with almost no knowledge of the story or world.
Each segment, we intend to cover what happens in each new chapter and discuss our experience along the way. This is Mistborn Abridged, a blind read-through, and today we will be covering Chapter
20!
Yes, we are on 2-0.
Indeed.
And I do need to buy the next book now. I want us to be on an even footing that I also have the other book.
Yes. Do not let me outpace you.
I also have the other book that we're not reading now.
At this time.
Yes. I also have the same temptations in my... I could just read. I could just binge this and then just message you afterwards and say, I did it. I'm sorry.
No. Hold fast. Just let it look pretty.
Yeah, it's actually, yes, it is difficult. I've gotten used to the constraints of reading like this, and it becomes exciting. So you're like, yay, I get to read another chapter now. Like after
it's also I think it's also much easier now that we're like halfway through the book. Like the first 3 chapters was really tough. But now it's just like things are going apace for me.
Yeah,
you know what I mean?
It was much harder because you're like, there's so much that could happen, that needs to happen. That we needed so much more to happen. So now we're like, okay, we're sated. We can make it through a week.
We know enough about this world. We know enough about the characters. So now it's just like an episodic adventure.
Yeah, exactly. So much fun. Okay, so I've got notes about the whole chapter, but and they don't include anything that I've written about the epigraph, because I suppose we can just go over that.
Okay. Yes, but this was one hell of a chapter. We got a lot of Vin. We got a lot of Marsh finally.
Yes.
And oh man, my Game of Thrones conspiracy theorist Charlie Day meme came out
Okay.
so hard this chapter.
I would like to see
man.
where. Show us the strings. Show us the map. You will.
I will. How was your experience with this chapter?
It was great. There you go. That's it. I'm done. No, I've got. I like the Vin work, but yes, I think my main takeaway was Marsh. I enjoyed having some time with Marsh, and I did worry about. Wait. I need more Marsh, please. So yeah, there were some nice payoffs as well here. That work with what we were thinking about. So yes, very happy. But my main takeaway was Marsh, even though most of my notes here seem to speak about Vin. But yeah, that's about it.
Great. Let's get into it then, shall we?
Let us.
It isn't a shadow. This dark thing that follows me. The thing that only I can see. It isn't really a shadow. It's blackish and translucent, but it doesn't have a shadow-like solid outline. It's insubstantial, wispy and formless, like it's made out of a dark fog. Or mist, perhaps.
Bum, bum, bum. That was... Okay. I wrote deepness, but yes, what do you do? What do you take? How?
I wrote ominous. This feels very ominous. And the words, the thing only I can see. It is no coincidence, and I'm going to repeat this later, it is no coincidence that we get an epigraph about something that only a character can see, and we get a possibly schizophrenic character later on in the chapter. String number 1.
Okay, I see this.
A couple of episodes ago, we talked about whether or not the epigraphs were a linear story or if they were taken out of order in order to fit in with the pertinent themes of each chapter, right?
Yes.
And this one very clearly seems to be here because of what we learn about Vin's mom in this chapter. Spoiler alerts ish.
Yes. No, that's true. But I mean, okay, so the main takeaway that I took from the almost perhaps, okay, in terms of the mechanism of the deepness or whatever, the how this works, that's what I was focusing on here. Obviously, you've taken it as, you've taken it in context with the rest of the chapter, which is I get what you're saying, and I can't wait to get to that so we can go and actually look back. But other than that, just only on the epigraph, for me, that the only thing that I didn't make that connection is what I'm saying, because I just didn't. It is a very good connection, very good catch. But for me, I guess I was too taken by, or missed perhaps, because that for me was like, okay, it's being slapped across our face. Thank you very much. But it's a mist, and well, there's mists now in this world. What is the deepness just like kind of still there? Is that what's taken over the world? Yeah.
That's an excellent thing, because the chronology, if the epigraphs are told in chronological order, we are currently under the impression, I think, at least a lifetime has passed for Epigraph Man, because he was reflective that he would have died in Clenium ages ago. And I think we had felt that this meant a lifetime at least. This makes me wonder if whatever it is that Epigraph Man did in regard to the deepness didn't cause the misty cataclysm.
Didn't.
Because if he is unable to, or has not yet settled on this thing that only he can see as misty, then the idea of mist is not something that is ever present in his daily life or in his psyche. Therefore, I don't think the world has undergone whatever transformation it did that caused it to become a misty ashen world.
Yes. Yeah,
Which means,
mhm.
which means if he has already stopped the deepness, which we think he did because he attained immortality, then it was not stopping the deepness that messed up the world. It was something that happens after.
Okay. I thought the stopping the deepness created the mist. That's what I'm getting from this, is that it does depend on where this is chronologically. So if this had to be after everything, like, well, where is he talking about this wispy, shadowy thing? Where is he talking about this? When? I mean, when in time? Because it's like this mist, this association with mist is really significant. Is
Yes.
Branderson trying to tell us that this battle with the initial deepness turned into the whole world becoming foggy? Or is it a foggy, misty? Or, like you said, is it that it was like that before? And yeah, so more unknown. But my thing is that I feel like the battle with the deepness or whatever is what caused the mists, because of this passage. That's what I'm seeing.
I definitely think the two are connected.
Yeah, that's all we can say. Really.
I don't think it all happened in one big boom. I think there's a
Mm.
sequence of events at play here.
Yeah, and we
And
need to find out. Yeah.
we need to find out. Oh man. So
Yes,
that
that's our
there
usual
was
conclusion when we finish an epigraph. Thanks, but also we don't have a conclusion.
Yeah. All right
Any-
then, shall we get into the chapter?
Let's get into the chapter.
Vin was growing very tired of the scenery between Luthadel and Felice. She'd made the same trip at least a dozen times during the last few weeks, watching the same brown hills, scraggly trees, and rug of weedy underbrush. She was beginning to feel as if she could individually identify each and every bump in the road. She attended numerous balls, but they were only the beginning. Luncheons, sitting parties, and other forms of daily entertainment were just as popular. Often, Vin traveled between the cities 2 or even 3 times a day. Apparently, young noblewomen didn't have anything better to do than sit in carriages for 6 hours a day. I liked that paragraph because in the last episode, I addressed what I meant to address in the previous episode about Vin not just attending balls and dancing with men, but also doing all of these other things, having girl friends and luncheons
Socializing.
and exactly.
Yeah, so there it is. It's like as soon as you notice, wait a second, where is it? It's like, well, the balls were kind of, the ball was the entryway to that. You have to make those sort of connections and then be invited, because she is the outsider. She had to go and kind of initiate herself in at the ball, and then she would receive invitations, and then that's how you socialize. So I think
Exactly.
it's realistic. It's good. It's good that it evolved that way.
Agreed. Vin sighed. In the near distance, a group of Ska trudged along the town path beside a canal, pulling a barge toward Luthadel. Her life could be much worse. Still, she felt frustration. It was midday, but there weren't any important events happening until the evening, so she had nowhere to go but back to Felice. She kept thinking about how much faster she could make the trip if she used the spikeway. She longed to leap through the mists again, but Kelsier had been reluctant to continue her training. He allowed her out for a short time each night to maintain her skills, but she wasn't allowed any extreme exciting leaps. Just some basic moves, mostly pushing and pulling small objects while standing on the ground. She was beginning to grow frustrated with her continued weakness. It had been over 3 months since her encounter with the Inquisitor. The worst of winter had passed without a flake of snow. How long was it going to take her to recover? Love it. Love it. Love it.
Yeah, you're getting proper consequences, and also showing us how actually really serious that wound was. You're not going to recover quick. You were very much almost dead, and she's still not 100%. I can take that. And also just one little writing thing. Hey, we've got Vin's brain. We're in Vin's mind, and she uses the word sparkway. So she's obviously spoken to Calcium about it, and she now calls it a sparkway. So we've lost the Allomantic Highway. It's a sparkway now. Yeah. She's been converted.
Okay.
Anything else? You like it? Yeah.
I like it. And she thinks to herself,
at least I can still go to balls.
And at that moment, I was thinking, oh, at least I can still go? Oh, someone's enjoying her time all of a sudden.
Someone's enjoying it. And can we blame her? No. But it's funny to see it happen because it was like, this was something that she was so against and so so worried about.
And we get a lot of this chapter.
Yes.
And I found myself exactly as frustrated with Vin as Vin herself was.
With her comfort and her change into Valette. Her.
Yes.
Is that, yeah. We'll get into it, I suppose. We'll get into it more.
Yeah, it's so expertly done how this character growth, this inner conflict that we get in this chapter. Vin is very frustrated with herself, and reading through it, I'm frustrated with her too, but in the best possible way.
In an understanding way, like you can understand the frustration because you're like, okay, well, can we get over this part of your your confusion, because we need to come back to reality eventually. But I guess we'll discuss as we go along.
Yes. Despite her annoyance at the constant traveling, Vin was coming to enjoy her duties. Pretending to be a nobleman was actually far less tense than standard thieving work. True, her life would be forfeit if her secret were ever discovered, but for now the nobility seemed willing to accept her, to dance with her, dine with her, and chat with her. It was a good life. A bit unexciting, but her eventual return to allomancy would fix that.
Okay, so it was a good life for me is a very permanent kind of comment to make. It was a good life, as if, you know what, I could get used to this. That, that kind of saying that some people, I could get used to this. I could stay being this, and we don't need to conquer the world kind of thing. It actually, like, that's what it was a good life. That's what I got from that sentence. Well, that phrase. She does say it in other situations. She has used the word. It's a X life. It's a whatever. It was a something life. She has said that before. This, for me, just a tiny little nuanced way of writing here that he went. It's a good life. It just gives you this feeling that she's taking this as, oh wait, she's feeling it as much as she knows this isn't supposed to be this permanent. She's like, this is a nice life. I'm happy with this. And can we really blame her for this, for feeling that way?
Right.
Yeah.
I don't know if passive is the right word, but there is something passive or just sort of generally accepting of the way this sentence was written. Very much, and it is what it is. It's not bad.
It's not bad. Yeah, it's not bad.
This is what my life is now.
Yes, this is what my life is. That's what I'm getting. It's like, oh, this is what my life is now. It's not too bad, actually. Great, I've done well. And I mean, look, you've come from a place where this was unimaginable.
There's something almost lazy, not passive, but almost lazy in acceptance here.
Accepting that this is it is what is lazy for you. What are you saying? Try and explain further. Lazy.
Rhythmic. Just, this is how life is, and it could go on, and it doesn't feel like it's going to end, and of course it's going to end.
Mm.
And
Yes.
she sort of passively accepts, yeah, they'll kill me if they ever find out I'm not noble, but
Yes, true.
what it is what it is.
It is, yeah, you know,
It's
what can you
nice
do?
right now.
Yeah.
Yeah.
That's true, and that makes me go, ooh, when is this going to be taken away? Because it is. So don't get too. I think, as readers are like, don't get too comfortable. Then this is not like, that's the frustration. Maybe we're like, Vin, not to get too comfortable, because the more comfortable, as much as we want you to enjoy yourself, we want you to feel good to things and whatever, we do want you to remain realistic and not get too complacent. There you go.
Great word.
Yeah, there you go. We don't want her to be too complacent, because we know the situation she's in. And her age does make it more believable that she would do this, because just the whole context of it, why would she not just lean into this a little bit as a young person? So I can't blame her, but also I'm like, oh, that's a bit dangerous. Please
There's
just,
something so enticing.
yeah. It's like,
Plug me
no,
into the
don't.
Matrix, please.
Yes, exactly.
That left her with two frustrations. The first was her inability to gather useful information. She was getting increasingly annoyed at having her questions avoided. She was growing experienced enough to tell that there was a great deal of intrigue going on, yet she was still too new to be allowed a part in it. What I liked about that is I felt it kind of mirrored or called back to her annoyance with Kelsier in previous chapters. You don't trust me. You're not telling me everything. I want to know. And she has this dire need to be included in things. But she has, at least in this scenario, calmed down tremendously, which is great to see.
Yeah, she needed to, because she could not be the way she was with, say, Calcia, and she had to be subtle and not push too hard. And in order to be patient, she had to be patient in order to be allowed into. She has to do the small bits of work to gain trust, to earn her ability to be part of these things, and she had to learn that patience, because she couldn't act out the way she kind of does with Calcia.
Agreed. Still, while her outsider status was annoying, Kelsier was confident that it would eventually change. Vin's second major annoyance wasn't so easily dealt with. Lord Elend of Venture had been notably absent from several balls during the last few weeks, and he had yet to repeat his act of spending the entire evening with her. While she rarely had to sit alone anymore, she was quickly coming to realize that none of the other noblemen had the same depth as Elend. None of them had his droll wit or his honest, earnest eyes. The others didn't feel real. Not like he did.
Oh boy. I wrote a boy there because it's like, oh gosh, let's have a bit. Yeah, Vin, you are a teenager, aren't you?
She's got it hard. Let me read this next sentence. He didn't seem to be avoiding her. However, he also didn't seem to be making much of an effort to spend time with her. Okay, another section of the Charlie Day yarn
Okay.
stuff. We know that there are now a hell of a lot of rumors going around about Renault and Venture. How much of this is Elend playing hard to get versus how much of this is Elend trying to protect Vin from these rumors? How much of this is drama between Elend and his dad? There's more to this that we do not see.
Yes, this is what my nobility tidbits note is about. Is because it's game. I wrote Game of Houses or Game of Thrones over there on the right, and when with this, because I was like, okay, he's reacting to those, because they did say, oh, we need to see how Venture reacts to what Vin did, right? We need to see how they react to those rumors and whatever, because that's kind of a move. So what do they do? Do they like say, hey, come out and say, hey, that was bullshit, and they can't do that. That's unseemly. So they kind of just make Elend not with Ellen withdraw. That's what I thought of it as. It's
Mhm.
probably his house making this happen, and then
Right. Well,
Ellen listens in order to keep Vin safe. That's what I think.
from what we saw of Lord Venture in the previous chapter, it is not at all hard to imagine a conversation where he says something to the effect of, Elend, we do not associate with a house so low. If you associate with her again, I will kill her. Something like that.
Yeah.
And that's kind of where my mind went. That's how
Mhm.
I filled in the blank until proven otherwise.
Yes, exactly. And like he isn't he can't go completely cold turkey and never speak to her again, because then that will create more, God, the intrigue of it all. Because you can't do nothing. This is one of the
Mm-hmm.
things that in Wheel of Time actually happened, where the reason that Rand, this actual, not even a noble, he just had a noble looking coat basically, but he got all these invites from the nobility to their houses, and he didn't want, he's like, I'm not playing your game, and he like throws away all the invites, and that was taken as, whoa, he's rejecting our house, wow, we're not good enough. And eventually he gets freaking invited by the king.
Wow.
because because of this game of houses thing, where it's like, and you can't, anything you do will be interpreted. So he can't just go cold turkey and never speak to her again, but he can't also just sit with her for a whole evening, because that will strengthen the invites. I mean, the invites strengthen the strengthen the rumors. So even if the dad didn't say so, that's why he would have to withdraw. So he has to do it subtly. Oh God, I would, not the politics, the social drama of it all is just, there's, you can't make any moves without have there's the implications are so far reaching. So I agree. I just chalked it up to Game of Houses. That's it. I don't,
So
that's why it's happening.
so it's fair that to say that we both lean more towards house politics than Elend
Mm-hmm.
playing hard to get, correct?
Yes, same. Yeah, yeah. I think we
Okay.
agree on that. Okay, so then she
Oh,
thinks to herself, did I misread him?
she wondered as the carriage reached Felice. Elend was so hard to understand sometimes. Unfortunately, his apparent indecision hadn't changed his former fiance's temperament. Vin was beginning to realize why Kelsier had warned her to avoid catching the attention of anyone too important. She didn't run into Shan Alariel often, thankfully, but when they did meet, Shan took every occasion to deride, insult, and demean Vin. She did it with a calm, aristocratic manner, her bearing reminding Vin of how inferior she was.
Perhaps I'm just becoming too attached to my Villet persona.
Vin thought. Valette was just a front. She was supposed to be all the things Shan said. However, the insults still stung. Oh, poor Vin.
Yeah, I like the. Nah, she did realize that that's how you make enemies, is just by being around the you the wrong person takes notice of you, and then the consequences of that is you make enemies. So she's seen the mechanism of that. That's great. We know that she's perceptive in that way. I wanted to ask you about a word I underlined: his apparent indecision. Indecision about what, Vin? So just, this is just her brain, okay, like her mind in crush mode. Indecision. Like indecision, there's what decision? To be with her? Like just even the way she's framing her thoughts is so crush minded. That's what I meant. Like, what decision,
Hmm.
what decision are you talking about? Okay. There's no decision here, Vin.
Yeah.
um that's it. They are as
It's
connected as they're ever going to be. There's no decision.
yeah, he's not going to decide to be with her.
Yes,
And
like it. Yeah,
he
and just
clearly doesn't think
mm,
that he's going to be with Shan either, it sounds like, but unfortunately Vin does not enter into the equation, at least not without a significant paradigm shift.
yeah, exactly. And I mean, yes, you can just chalk that up. You can be like, okay, indecision, just indecision about how to react with her, sure. But I just, the way that it phrased her thoughts, that's how I saw it, was very much about a decision about her. it can be seen obviously in the highly practical way, but for me it was just like, oh, you got it bad. And and then we just have also the thing about we do have Vin dealing with Shan. Shan continues her Shanness.
Meanness.
Yeah, and also what I wrote here as well about truth versus hurt. Just because things are supposed to be true, that doesn't make it like, oh well, the truth. It's literally the truth hurts. So I'm not saying that these things that Shan says are true, but Vin is trying to say, oh well, they're true. So why did they? Why does this hurt? It's like, well, because you don't. It's impolite to be rude.
It is impolite. It's cruel. It's
cruel. It's mean.
It's unsolicited. I'm sorry. Who asked for your opinion, Shan?
Yeah, exactly. Just because it's true, that does not mean it's not cruel. So so Vin's kind of that's Vin trying to think her way out of that, but she's like, the insults still sung. Yes, because they're insults. Yeah. Oh, love it. Poor Vin.
Vin shook her head, putting both Shan and Elend out of her mind. Ash had fallen during her trip to the city, and though it was done now, its aftermath was visible in small drifts and flurries of black blowing across the town's streets. Ska workers moved about, sweeping the soot into bins and carrying it out of the city. They occasionally had to hurry to get out of the way of a passing noble carriage, none of which bothered to slow for the workers.
Poor things.
Vin thought, passing a group of ragged children who were shaking aspen trees to get the ash out so that it could be swept up. It wouldn't do for a passing nobleman to get an unexpected dump of tree-borne ash on his head. The children shook, two to a tree, bringing furious black showers down on their heads. Careful cane-wielding taskmasters walked up and down the street, making certain the work continued.
Canes on the children, huh? We need canes? Okay, cool.
Yep.
Ellen and the others. They must not understand how bad life is for the Ska. They live in their pretty keeps, dancing, never really understanding the extent of the Lord Ruler's oppression.
Okay, at this point, I wrote very big in my notes, no, Vin, come on!
I wrote Sweet Summer Child.
The cope.
Yeah, the cope. It is the cope. And that's so that's what I love is she's gone away from this. Oh no, I'm getting too attached to Valette. So let me just not think about Shannon and Ellen. Boom. Next thing. Oh, okay. She sees the reality that she's still part of this oppressed world. Oh no, you know what? Those people that even Shan and Ellen, they just don't see it. But she herself, she has some perceptions after this.
Yes, but look. I believe that there are probably some noblemen, maybe even a lot of noblemen who don't know how bad it is for the Ska or don't pay attention.
Mm-hmm.
But those, I suspect, are the ones who aren't necessarily unduly cruel to the Ska. The Lord Ventures of the world are unduly cruel, and they damn well know it.
They know, yeah.
So no,
Yes.
Vin.
No, you
Bad
can't
girl.
make this excuse. Yeah, you can't make that excuse for them. Sorry, Vin. I know you want to, but you can't.
Yeah. She could see beauty in the nobility. She wasn't like Kelsey or hating them outright. I liked that line. I liked it quite a lot. There are certainly traits that are admirable, I am sure.
Yeah. It's a nuanced way of looking at it. She's not going black and white thinking, but she needs to also not use black and white thinking rose-tinted glasses wise. She can't go, oh, well, yeah, you see, they're not all bad. Not everything about them is bad. I can understand them, but it's like, whoa. That doesn't mean now that this whole plan needs to now be turned off.
Kelsier takes the zealous approach. All noblemen must die, and anyone in service to noblemen must die. But Vin takes the Stannis approach. The good doesn't wash out the bad, and the bad does not wash out the good. For all of Stannis's criticisms of being too black and white, this perspective is correct, I think. The good and the bad. Life is ash gray. Some of them seemed quite kind in their own way, and she was beginning to think some of the stories Ska told about their cruelty must be exaggerated.
Oh
No!
no.
And that,
No!
no! That
Must be
made me so
exaggerated.
mad.
No,
That's,
they're not. Hmm.
have you forgotten where you come from, Vin?
But look what happens now. Like, literally, she goes, they must be exaggerated. And then it's like, dude, yes, we just saw a child be murdered.
Yet when she saw events like that poor boy's execution or the Ska children, she had to wonder, how could the nobility not see? How could they not understand?
Good girl. Yes. Well done. You have to come back to that. Like, okay, you can't make excuses for them completely.
If she hadn't had that afterthought, I would be very, very upset with her.
Yes, I would be like, oh, she's taken, she's gone. But she's smart enough. She's realizing, she knows that this is she's bullshitting herself and she knows it. So she's like, really? Okay, Vin, it would be very nice to go and live in that la la land over there. But yeah, she's tempted. And I think that's she can become Valette, but she also is Vin. She can't forget Vin. I want her to embrace some of the Valette stuff, but she can't forget about being Vin either. And it's tempting for her to just forget. And again, I can't blame her, but I know she's better than that. I know that she's smarter than that.
Listen, a person can live in two villages, right?
Mm-hmm.
And if there's a river flowing between the two villages, but there's a bridge, you can walk from one village to the other and everything's good. But then what happens when a bunch of dolphins with insanely sharp teeth and, Gatling lasers come and destroy the bridge between the two? She's going to have to pick one or the other.
Oh, that's a great metaphor. And also, I went for lasers as soon as you spoke about the sharp teeth. I was like, oh, and then I thought of lasers. So I'm very glad that you put lasers in too. Also, these are freshwater dolphins. Is a thing.
Yes. She sighed, looking away from the Ska as the carriage finally rolled up to Mansion Renault. She immediately noticed a large gathering in the inner courtyard, and she grabbed a fresh vial of medals, worrying that the Lord Ruler had sent soldiers to arrest Lord Renault. And I was still in this place of being frustrated with Vin up to this point, and I was calming down from her afterthoughts. And then I was glad to see that she still has some instinct.
Yes, here. I was gonna actually, that's what I was gonna point out as well, is that, yeah, okay, she's having this sort of moral conundrum, not really knowing what's happening. Oh, yeah, but not when it comes back to the actual action. No, she does have her wits about her.
Yes. However, she quickly realized that the crowd wasn't made up of soldiers, but of Ska in simple workers' clothing. The carriage rolled through the gates, and Vin's confusion deepened. Boxes and sacks lay in heaps among the Ska, many of them dusted with soot from the recent ashfall. The workers themselves bustled with activity, loading a series of carts. Vin's carriage pulled to a stop in front of the mansion, and she didn't wait for Sadza to open the door. She hopped out on her own, holding up her dress and stalking over to Kelsier and Renault, who stood surveying the operation.
You're running goods to the caves out of here?
Curtsy to me, child. Maintain appearances while we can be seen. Vin did as ordered, containing her annoyance. Of course we are, Vin. Renault has to do something with all the weapons and supplies he's been gathering. People would start getting suspicious if they didn't see him sending them away. Ostensibly, we're sending all this via canal barges to my plantation in the west. However, the barges will stop to drop off supplies, and many of the canal men at the Rebellion Caverns. The barges and a few men will continue on to keep up appearances. Our soldiers don't know that Renault is in on the plan. They think he's a nobleman that I'm scamming. Besides, this will be a great opportunity for us to go and inspect the army. After a week or so at the caves, we can return to Luthadel on one of Renault's barges coming east.
We?
Vin asked, suddenly imagining weeks spent on the barge, watching the same dull scenery day after day after day as they traveled. That would be much worse than traveling back and forth between Luthadel and Felice. And then I had a thought, and then Kelsier said the thought. Kelsier raised an eyebrow. You sound worried. Apparently someone's coming to enjoy her balls and parties.
I just thought that I should be here. I mean, after all the time I missed being sick,
Kelsier held up his hand, chuckling. You're staying. Yedden and I are the ones going. I need to inspect the troops, and Yedden is going to take a turn watching over the army so that Ham could come back to Luthadau. We'll also take my brother with us, then drop him at his insertion point with the Ministry acolytes up in Venias. It's a good thing you're back. I want you to spend a little time with him before we leave.
with Marsh.
He's a misting seeker. Bronze is one of the less useful metals, especially for a full Mistborn, but Marsh claims he can show you a few tricks. This will probably be your last chance to train with him. Okay, couple things to unpack there.
Yeah.
Yay, Marsh, Vin, Master Apprentice stuff going on.
Mm-hmm.
Kelsier's comment here about bronze being one of the less useful metals, I love that in contrast to some of what Marsh ends up teaching her in this chapter.
Yes. And actually, we actually had a bit of him using this power in the previous chapter, didn't we? He was actually figuring out who he knew actually how many people were around him when in the beginning of the chapter, because he was, when he killed when he was dumping the body and things like that. Like that was him using bronze. So it's quite funny straight after that chapter to have him say that it's less useful. I'm like, okay, would you have preferred not to have it there? No. So yes, I agree. It's kind of short-sighted for Kelsier to be thinking that it's not that useful. And just going back to yarn. Okay, I did write here. I think this is on my second read through. I wrote, they think he's a nobleman that I'm scamming. Like I hope that nobody takes the liberties with him because of that. But I think he is safe because he's integral to the plan. So even if he is a nobleman being scammed, you don't mess with him because he's an asset. But I did write just like as a consideration.
Fair. And Vin has a thought later on, something to the effect of he probably decided to go at the last minute.
Mm-hmm.
And I actually think she's wrong in that thought,
yes,
his
same.
decision to go with Yedden, because we know that at the last meeting at Renault's veranda, or wherever it was, Yedden basically said, I want to go inspect the troops, and I think Kelsier said something similar as well, but he said it's going to have to wait. So I think this is Kelsier following up on that promise. Yeah?
Yeah, and in context of the rumors heating up and things like that, it's a good time. He has to do that, and he's taking his opportunity. I also don't think it was an impulse decision, and maybe that's also another indicator of Vin maybe not paying as much attention to Kelsier as she was before, because she would have picked up something like Yedden wanting to go and inspect the things, the troops. Like she's maybe she's forgotten that was a thing. so she's decided, oh no, it must have been just an impulse. It's like, well, maybe you're distracted a little, which again,
you're losing
can't
your
blame
edge.
her. Yeah, you can't blame her, but I worry. That's all. It's very in character. So just because I'm criticizing a character's behavior doesn't mean it's bad. It's because she's behaving within character, and her character is flawed. I love it. Thank you.
Yes. Vin glanced toward the gathering caravan.
Where is he?
He's late.
Runs in the family, I guess.
She thinks to herself. He should be here soon, child. Perhaps you'd like to go take some refreshment inside.
I've had plenty of refreshment lately,
she thought, controlling her annoyance. And Kitteh, you sounded annoyed.
Thank
Yay.
you. I'm incredibly skilled. Thank you.
Instead of going into the mansion, she wandered across the courtyard, studying the goods and workers, who were packing the supplies onto carts for transport to the local canal docks. The grounds were kept well maintained, and though the ash hadn't been cleaned up yet, the low-cut grass meant that she didn't have to hold her dress up much to keep it from dragging. Beyond that, ash was surprisingly easy to get out of clothing. With proper washing and some expensive soaps, even a white garment could be rendered clean of ash. Vin, show me what soaps can get ash out of white, please.
Yeah, like, oh, it's fine. I'm like, girl, have you had to scrub? You have not had to scrub things.
But okay, I'll let this line pass.
They're expensive soaps. They're expensive soaps.
They are expensive. They must be really. Look, I can totally buy into allomancy. I can totally buy into Atium letting you see forward in time and the deepness and an immortal man who can come back from being decapitated. But soap getting ash out of white? I'm sorry. That is too far, Mr. Sanderson.
Get out of here. Yeah, get out of here.
That was why the nobility could always have new-looking clothing. It was such an easy, simple thing to divide the ska and the aristocracy.
I'll put stars around that. I'm like, oh, and yeah, so easy. It's because we have the ska. I'm like, I guess, what does she even mean by that? There's so many things we could say about it. What was your take from that? What is your take from that sentence? It was such an easy, simple thing to divide the ska and the aristocracy, and this is in the context of clothing.
I mean, I think she's learning that in many ways there isn't as much difference between the two as one might expect.
Yeah, it's literally just the way that they look clothing wise. And why? Oh, it's literally because they don't have time to sit and scrub their bloody clothes. They're busy scrubbing the nobility's clothes. That's how easy it is. That's the difference. So it's like, yes, of course it's a simple thing to get simple. It's a somewhat simple thing to get ash out of the clothing. But Scar don't have time for that.
In not so many words, she's reflecting on tribalism and how easy it can be to set yourself up as a member of one or the other.
Yeah, you just need to do certain things, and then you appear as one, which is hello. That's her whole role at the moment. But then we see Vin does have a bit of a thought. She's like, okay, hold up, girl. Kelsey is right. I'm coming to enjoy being a noble woman.
And she was concerned about the changes her new lifestyle was encouraging within her. Once her problems had been things like starvation and beatings. Now they were things like extended carriage rides and companions who arrived late for appointments. What did a transformation like that do to a person? And that's excellent. She is self-aware, and this is good. And this is the character growth. This is the conflict.
We need conflict with this. You don't just, go from one village to the next. In that, what I'm saying, you don't undergo that transformation and not notice, oh, okay, something's up here. This is a huge, huge change. And what does happen? I did say what indeed. What does happen to a person? You can become blindsided to your. That's why I said Vin versus Vin being Villette, Vin becoming Villette, Vin. Like she doesn't know what's what here, and that is a confusing place to be in, because as much as she's trying to pretend that Villette is a persona and not part of her, actually, it's just she's enhancing certain bits of herself in that role, and there's bits of herself that are also in the dangerous underground role of Vin as well. So this conflict is very realistic, and she continues to be perceptive. So as much as she, we see her kind of failing, she does pick herself up and go, wait a second. She notices, which is in character. If she wasn't having these second thoughts, it would have been way too frustrating. It would have been like, oh my god, Vin is stupid now.
Right. It would have been like,
yeah,
it would have been a character assassination if she didn't have any of these thoughts of like pulling her back to who she used to be. If there weren't that connecting thread, and if we went into this chapter just her thinking about all of these missed appointments and how dirty the ska look, it would be a totally different character.
Yeah, exactly. And I love the thing of what did that transformation do to a person? What could it do? I think that's speculate here. That's why what I asked. What would it do? What do you think? What are the consequences of something so drastic?
I think a person could overdose. Frankly, if you go from starvation and beatings to having all of your needs met, yeah, I think you could have some serious impulse issues. You're not going to want to stop.
Yeah, exactly. That's the danger there, that you burn the bridge as well. That between your old self and your new self, or these two bits, you burn that and you forget one side of yourself and betray that side and just continue and go into this world and be blind to the suffering and things like that, because now I have mine. Now I'm getting what I deserve. Why do I need to look back? Let me pull up this ladder behind me, kind of thing. Yeah, so I'm so happy that she's not. Well, also the conflict itself, the actions being against what she has to act as Valette, so there is the conflict itself that also takes a toll on the person. So yeah, I just wanted to also just point to evil Vin.
I don't think she would be happy if she went to Kelsier right now and said, "Hey, I'm leaving. I'm taking my 3,000 boxings and I'm gonna get a small house and just live my life now." I don't think she'd be happy.
No, she wouldn't feel good with that.
She sighed to herself, walking amid the supplies. Some of the boxes would be filled with weapons, swords, war staves, bows, but the bulk of the material was sacked foodstuffs. Kelsier said that forming an army required far more grain than it did steel. Cool line. Also true.
Yep.
She trailed her fingers along one stack of boxes, careful not to brush the ash that was on top of them. She'd known that they'd be sending out a barge this day, but she hadn't expected Kelsier to go with it. He probably hadn't made the decision to go until a short time before. Even the new, more responsible Kelsier was an impulsive man. We discussed that already, no need to rehash it. Perhaps that was a good attribute in a leader. He wasn't afraid to incorporate new ideas, no matter when they occurred to him.
Very true. It was a nice way of wording what we're talking about, like when he uses tricks and things that he's experienced from Vin or whatever, or like, when he
The
took
eye thing.
Yeah, the eye thing. He isn't afraid to incorporate new ideas. I like the way that was phrased. I was like, oh yes, that's a good way to phrase what he was doing before. So thanks, Vin.
Yeah.
Maybe I should ask to go with him. I've been playing the noblewoman far too much lately.
The other day she'd caught herself sitting straight-backed in her carriage with a prim posture, despite the fact that she was alone. She feared that she was losing her instincts. Being Valette was almost more natural to her now than being Vin was. And then I was like, okay, come on.
What?
Come on,
what?
Vin.
Wait. Come on, what? Like, what was your... Because she like... What? It's too easy.
Okay.
Yeah. What are you upset with her about?
We'll break it down. She'd caught herself sitting straight-backed in her carriage with a prim posture despite the fact that she was alone. Really? Why? First, why would you... Even if you were genuinely a noblewoman, why would you do that? Do you have any idea how good slouching feels? But then she wrote, she feared that she was losing her instincts. Being Valette was almost more natural to her now than being Vin was. 16 years of beatings and starvation and fear and paranoia. You've been a noble lady for what, like 3 months now? 4?
Yeah,
How long has it been?
Yeah, 4. It's about 4, let's say.
4, give or take. At max 6. And you think you're losing yourself entirely? I mean, it's hard to argue with you since we're getting your stream of conscious in the narration here. But come on, Vin.
I think, she is worried about it. She's, and of course, she could, part of that worry could exaggerate her worry. She's like, oh, it's too natural. I'm too natural. I'm too good at this. It's like,
we do know she is anxious and paranoid, so.
Yeah. So she's going to question everything. She's going to, wait a second, I'm not doing this right. So, yes, I understand. She's like, oh no, I'm sitting straight. Oh no.
Is Vin neurotic?
Vin?
But she couldn't leave. She had a lunch appointment with Lady Flavine to attend, not to mention the Hasting Ball. It was going to be the social event of the month. If Villette was absent, it would take weeks to repair the damage. Besides, there was always Elend. He'd probably forget about her if she disappeared again. That's what this is about. It all goes back to Elend.
Look, I do agree that this has been slow going with her getting information, and she has to build up her reputation there and things like that. So it would be damaging if she did go away. But for Vin, that's not really her consideration. That's cope. No, it's just because she was of Elend. It's like, oh no, I need all the opportunities to see this person. That's what I'm here for. But she goes, he's already forgotten you. He's barely spoken to you during the last 3 parties. Keep your head on, Vin. This is all just another scam, a game, like the ones you pulled before. You're building your reputation to gain information, not so that you can flirt and play.
She nodded to herself, resolute. To her side, a few ska men loaded one of the carts. Vin lingered beside a large stack of boxes and watched the men work. According to Doxson, the army's recruitment was picking up.
Sorry, just to go back to her thoughts to herself there, I just wrote there back to Calcia's convo. So remember I said, like, Calcia didn't have to say all of this, right? Remember we were like, he just kind of suggested killing Elend to kind of remind her of the position. And I said, well, yeah, they didn't have to have a very frank conversation about that. Vin would take what she needs to from that, and she did. You can see that she knows what she should be thinking is that she's supposed to be. It's not so that she can flirt and play. She knows that, but she's still tempted by the flirting and the playing. So,
well, that's the fun. That's the balls. That's
yeah.
That's
the youth of it all.
Yep.
We're gaining momentum. I guess word is spreading.
That was good, assuming it didn't spread too far. She watched the packmen for a moment, sensing something odd. They seemed unfocused. After a few moments, she was able to determine the source of their distraction. They kept shooting looks at Kelsier, whispering as they worked. Vin inched closer, keeping to the side of the boxes and burnt tin.
Yeah, so she's totally lost her instincts.
No, that's him for certain, one of the men whispered. I saw the scars. He's tall. Of course he is. What did you expect? He spoke at the meeting where I was recruited. The survivor of Hathson. There was awe in his tone. The men moved on, walking over to gather more boxes. Vin cocked her head, then began to move among the workers, listening. Not all of them were discussing Kelsier, but a surprising number were. She also heard a number of references to the 11th metal.
So that's why the rebellion's momentum isn't gathering. Calcia's is.
The men spoke of him in quiet, almost reverent tones. For some reason, that made Vin uncomfortable. She would never have been able to stand hearing similar things said about her. Yet Kelsier took them in stride. His charismatic ego probably just fueled the rumors even more.
I wonder if you'll be able to let it go when this is all through.
The other crew members obviously had no interest in leadership, but Kelsier seemed to thrive on it. Would he really let the Ska rebellion take over? Would any man be able to relinquish that kind of power? Oh, so much to talk about here, but let's get just a little bit further, shall we?
Okay.
Vin frowned. Kelsier was a good man. He'd probably make a good ruler. However, if he did try to take control, it would smell of betrayal, a reneging on the promises that he made to Yedden. She didn't want to see that from Kelsier. Okay.
Mm-hmm.
What are your takes first?
Okay. Just call back to Dark Kelsier arc.
Mm-hmm.
It's very perceptive. I do agree there. It is a good question. I don't think Kelsier is aware of how much he does like this power. I don't think he realizes that his ego does play a big part in this. It's sustaining him. It does make him charismatic and a good leader, but he doesn't seem to have this awareness that, oh, this is something that could potentially go wrong. Maybe it's because he's just like, I'm probably going to die doing this, so it's fine. That's probably what's happening, is he's just very much in the moment. It's too worrisome to go that way. I did put here Yedin journey because, okay, yes, so we had the kind of spoiler that Yedin's going to go on some sort of journey, right? He's going to go on some sort of growth. And we did know that he does, he did have a moment where, Breeze was helping his confidence so that he could continue speaking for Kelsier. So we do need, I just brought that there to just remind us that Yedin's also going to be a factor going forward. But yeah, the main takeaway from that was, but I just thought back to earlier on in the story when you were like, oh, possible Dark Kelsier arc. Like, yeah, it is possible. I also agree. I don't want that from Kelsier either. I don't want him to renege on things he promised. I would rather him, like Yedin or whatever, say to him, no, you must lead us. You are the leader we need, that sort of thing. That if Kelsier were to be the ruler, I would want it to be that people had put him there, not that he had removed the option from them,
Yes. There is that bit of meta knowledge that Brandon Sanderson likes to write positive character arcs. So I predict that ultimately Vin's fear here will be unfounded. And in fact, it is covered in this chapter that he has changed for the better. But at the same time, I think I've said in the past, I don't think Kelsier is good. In using the D&D alignment chart, I certainly think, at best, I think he's neutral. I don't necessarily want to be putting him in the evil category, but he has done some not good things, and we've heard how he thinks about anyone, even Ska, who take up arms in defense of the Final Empire, and we hear Marsh's justification for why that is not a good thing. So he may well be evil in some way.
Weak in certain places, in the same way that we even see in the Lord Ruler, in Epigraph Man. We saw bits of there's goodness there, right? And we were like, oh, even at one point we were like, oh, there's two different people. Like, that is it. The fact is, I think we've agreed that the Lord Ruler may have had some good in him, and then the deepness maybe corrupted it, or the power corrupted it, corrupted that seed of evil that was in him. That sort of, we pointed out bad bits of him. Yeah,
we both know that he is on a quest for vengeance. We know he is exceptionally nihilistic. I don't think that Vin needs to fear him taking control. I wonder if she needs to be concerned whether or not Kelsier will unalive himself once all is said and done, if successful.
Yeah, but what does he have left after this? Like, what sustains him after this? Usually that is something that to consider with a person who basically is just living for revenge. It's like, okay, and then what do you do? Because that's still not going to bring a mayor back. It's not going to change anything. That seems to be a thing that happens to people, is they get their land up after their revenge, and they're like, oh, well, yeah, that part, that need for revenge is gone, but the need for the person that I've lost, it's still it's still there. I've still got to grieve. So it's like a re-grief that happens.
Yeah. What does the dog do when it finally catches its tail?
He's like, oh, okay, yeah.
Yeah. Now, I'm of the opinion that if all goes swimmingly, and of course I don't necessarily expect that, but I do think that ultimately they will be successful by the end of the book. But if all goes swimmingly, I suspect he will find renewed reason to live through Vin and through the father-daughter relationship. But no, I until that fully develops, I think Kelsier might be on an unaliving plan. I think that's something that he
he's not considering the after. He's really not, because he's just so focused on the getting this thing done. He and how perilous it is. he's not really spending time thinking about the future after it.
Yes.
I think.
But of course, that has started to change, and everyone is noticing that he has improved for the better.
Yeah.
So, anyway, sorry for the suddenly heavy topic there.
No, very worthy topic.
Yes. If you need help, seek help. Valette! Finn jumped slightly, feeling a bit guilty. Kelsier pointed toward a carriage that was pulling onto the mansion grounds. Marsh had arrived. She walked back as the carriage pulled up, and she reached Kelsier about the same time that Marsh did. Kelsier smiled, nodding toward Vin. We won't be ready to leave for a while yet, he said to Marsh. If you have time, could you show the kid a few things? Marsh turned toward her. He shared Kelsier's lanky build and blonde hair, but he wasn't as handsome. Maybe it was the lack of a smile. He pointed up toward the mansion's forebalcony. Wait for me up there. Vin opened her mouth to reply, but something about Marsh's expression made her shut it again. He reminded her of the old times, several months ago, when she had not questioned her superiors. She turned, leaving the three, and made her way into the mansion. It was a short trip up the stairs to the fore balcony. When she arrived, she pulled over a chair and seated herself beside the whitewashed wooden railing. The balcony had already been scrubbed clean of ash. Below, Marsh was still speaking with Kelsier and Renaud. Beyond them, beyond the sprawling caravan, Vin could see the barren hills outside the city lit by red sunlight.
Only a few months playing a noblewoman, and already find anything that isn't cultivated to be inferior.
She'd never thought of the landscape as barren during the years she'd traveled with Reen.
And Kelsier says the entire land used to be even more fertile than a nobleman's garden.
Did he think to reclaim such things? Keepers could memorize languages and religions, but they couldn't create seeds for plants that had long been extinct. I liked that. That was cool.
Yeah. That's sad.
Sad, but yeah.
Mm.
They couldn't make the ash stop falling or the mists go away. Now that I'm not convinced of.
Mm-hmm. That's what we're busy doing here.
Yeah. Would the world really change that much if the final empire were gone?
I wrote yes. So would the world really change that much if the final empire were gone? I'm hoping yes.
I think so. It goes back to the deepness wasn't defeated, I think.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
And once it is, hopefully all is right with the world.
Yeah, I don't think it would be a instant transformation that everything turns green. I don't know. That seems less likely to me. But it would change the fundamentals. We would have no mists, and the ash would hopefully stop falling.
The sun might turn yellow again.
Yeah.
We'll see. We'll see what happens. I mean, I expect it to be nothing like I expect it to be.
Yeah.
I will say that.
I like expecting, and I like suspecting. I like to try and figure out what it could be, but usually just, getting to it. I'm not disappointed.
Yes. Besides, didn't the Lord Ruler have some right to his place? He'd defeated the deepness, or so he claimed. He'd saved the world, which, in a twisted sort of way, made it his. What right did they have to try and take it from him? Oh, that's more of that nobleman thinking than not cool.
Yeah, I had the Ham question there. I wrote Ham. In that paragraph is for Ham. We need to have this discussion again with Ham.
Yeah. Do it. Have it, please.
Yeah, and a good question is, if you save the world, do you have a right to it? And it feels like that's wrong. It feels like, no, you're saving the world for the world's sake, not for your taking, for you to take the world.
Because I'm one of the fools who lives in it. She wondered about such things often, though she didn't express her worries to the others. They all seemed committed to Kelsier's plan. Some even seemed to share his vision, but Vin was more hesitant. She had learned, as Reen had taught, to be skeptical of optimism. If there was ever a plan to be hesitant about, this was the one. However, she was getting past the point where she questioned herself. She knew the reason she stayed in the crew. It wasn't the plan. It was the people. She liked Kelsier. She liked Dachshund Breeze and Ham. She even liked the strange little spook and his crotchety uncle. This was a crew unlike any other she'd worked with. You know who isn't on that list? Yeah.
Marsh? Oh, she
Oh.
didn't even say Marsh. Well, I mean, she hasn't really expected, but yeah, not yet, and either. Oopsie.
Poor
But I love
Yen
that
can't
Spook.
catch a break.
Yeah, I love that Spook got a mention, honorable mention there. I really like that.
Yeah. Yes.
Is that a good enough reason to let them get you killed? Reen's
Reen's
voice.
voice. Being influenced by the audiobook, are you, Kitteh?
Yes.
Well, I can
Badly.
tell that you're improving your reading abilities.
My range is amazing.
The thought gave her pause. She had been hearing his whispers in her mind less frequently lately, but they were still there. Reen's teachings, drilled into her over 16 years of life, could not be idly discarded. Marsh arrived on the balcony a few moments later. He glanced at her with those hard eyes of his, then spoke. Kelsier apparently expects me to spend the evening training you in allomancy. Let us get started. Vin nodded. Marsh eyed her, obviously expecting more of a response. Vin sat quietly.
You're not the only one who could be terse, friend.
I liked that.
Yeah, she's like, fine, cool. I'll play you a game, yeah?
Like meets like. Very well, Marsh said, sitting beside her, resting one arm on the balcony railing. His voice sounded a little less annoyed when he continued. Kelsier says that you have spent little time training with the internal mental abilities, correct? Vin nodded again. I suspect that many full Mistborn neglect these powers, and that is a mistake. Bronze and copper may not be as flashy as other metals, but they can be quite powerful in the hands of someone properly trained. The Inquisitors work through their manipulation of bronze, and the Misting Underground survives because of its reliance upon copper. One of the two powers, bronze, is by far the more subtle. I can teach you how to use it properly. If you practice what I show you, then you will have an advantage that many Mistborn dismiss.
But don't other Mistborn know how to burn copper? What is the use of learning bronze if everyone you fight is immune to its powers?
I see that you already think like one of them. That line mirrors Breeze's.
It does.
Remember that? You sound like one of them. And I suspect if we get a ham Vin, he might say something similar. Yeah.
Also, it's just some meta stuff here. She is thinking like one of them. She's fighting against the nobility thinking in this chapter.
It works on so many layers.
Yeah.
I see that you already think like one of them. Not everyone is a Mistborn girl. In fact, very, very few people are. And despite what your kind likes to think, normal Mistings can kill people too. Knowing that the man attacking you is a thug rather than a coin shot could easily save your life.
All right.
Bronze will also help you identify Mistborn. If you see someone using allomancy when there is no smoker nearby, yet don't sense them giving off allomantic pulses, then you know that they are Mistborn. Either that or they're an Inquisitor. In both cases, you should run. Smart, emphasizing intelligence.
Yeah, the smart thing to do. I also wrote run equals Vin. That was Vin's meta actually. Vin's gaming style was run away. So
Yes.
she can relate to that. It works. So this is it's just so much smarter. You have to this helps you pick the fights that you're gonna fight, which is a good survival. Yes, it's information, and she likes that as much as she was tempted to be, just another Mistborn, which is also a nice, interesting facet of this conversation between her and Marsh is what it's like to be a Misting versus what it's like to be a Mistborn. You've got all of these gifts, but it's like, wait, no, there are people that have the one gift and they hone it, and that's their speciality. So if you don't hone your skills the way that they do, you're not going to get the benefits of all of their powers.
100%. Vin nodded silently, the wound in her side throbbing slightly. There are great advantages to burning bronze instead of just running around with your copper on. True, you smoke yourself by using copper, but in a way you also blind yourself. Copper makes you immune to having your emotions pushed or pulled.
But that's a good thing.
Oh? And what would be the greater advantage? Being immune to, but ignorant of some soother's attentions? Or instead knowing from your bronze exactly which emotions he's trying to suppress? And that made me think
Yeah.
of Shan and Vin.
I wrote Shan there. Yeah, exactly. I was like, that was an interesting bit of information that she picked up.
Mm-hmm.
So, and that wasn't from bronze. It was just she noticed. So now there's even more information she can get.
Yep.
You can see something that specific.
With care and practice, you can learn to recognize minute changes in your opponent's allomantic burnings. You can identify precisely which parts of a person's emotions a soother or a rioter intends to influence. You'll also be able to tell when someone is flaring their metal. If you grow very skilled, you might be able to tell when they're running low on metals. Then consider the implications of that. You begin to see the advantage. Good. Now burn bronze. Vin did so. Immediately, she felt two rhythmic thumpings in the air. The soundless pulses washed over her like the far-off beating of different drummers. They were mixed and muddled. What do you sense?
I think there are two different metals being burned. One's coming from Calcia down below. The other's coming from you.
Good. You've practiced.
Not much.
Not much. You can already determine pulse origins. That takes practice. Vin shrugged.
Seems natural to me.
Marsh was still for a moment. Very well. Are the two pulses different? Vin concentrated, frowning. Close your eyes. Remove other distractions. Focus only on the allomantic pulses. Vin did so. It wasn't like hearing, not really. She had to concentrate to distinguish anything specific about the pulses. One felt like it was beating against her. The other, in a strange sensation, felt like it was actually pulling her toward it with each beat.
One's a pulling metal, isn't it?
Vin asked, opening her eyes.
That one's Calcia. You're pushing.
Good. He is burning iron, as I asked him to so that you could practice. I, of course, am burning bronze.
Do they all do that? Feel distinct, I mean.
Marsh nodded. You can tell a pulling metal from a pushing metal by the allomantic signature. Actually, that's how some of the metals were originally divided into their categories. It isn't intuitive, for instance, that tin pulls while pewter pushes. I didn't tell you to open your eyes. Then shut them. Focus on the pulses. Try to distinguish their lengths. Can you tell the difference between them? Vin frowned. She focused as hard as she could, but her sense of the metal seemed muddled, fuzzy. After a few minutes, the lengths of the separate pulses still seemed the same to her.
I can't sense anything.
Good. It took me 6 months of practice to distinguish pulse lengths. If you'd done it on the first try, I'd have felt incompetent. Vin opened her eyes.
Why ask me to do it then?
Ooh, I love the bite you put into that. Because you need to practice. If you can tell pulling metals from pushing metals already, well, you apparently have talent. Perhaps as much talent as Kelsier has been bragging about. And then I thought, ooh, Kelsier's bragging, yay.
Yay, yeah. She's become so used to it, she doesn't even think about it. What was I supposed to see then?
Eventually, you'll be able to sense two different pulse lengths. Internal metals like bronze and copper give off longer pulses than external metals like iron and steel. Practice will also let you sense the three patterns within the pulses. One for the physical metals, one for the mental metals, and one for the two greater metals. Pulse length, metal groups, and push-pull variance. Once you know these three things, you will be able to tell exactly which metals your opponent is burning. A long pulse that beats against you and has a quick pattern will be pewter, the internal pushing physical metal.
Why the names, external and internal?
Metals come in groups of 4, or at least the lower 8 do. 2 external metals, 2 internal metals, one each that pushes, one each that pulls. With iron, you pull on something outside of yourself. With steel, you push on something outside of yourself. With tin, you pull on something inside of yourself. With pewter, you push on something inside of yourself.
But bronze and copper, Kelsier called them internal metals, but it seemed like they affect external things. Copper keeps people from sensing when you use allomancy.
Copper doesn't change your opponents. It changes something within you that has an effect on your opponents. That's why it is an internal metal. Brass, however, alters another person's emotions directly and is an external metal. Vin nodded thoughtfully. Then she turned, glancing toward Kelsier.
You know a lot about all the metals, but you're just a mystic, right?
Marsh nodded. He didn't look like he intended to respond, though.
Let's try something then.
Vin thought, extinguishing her bronze. She lightly began burning copper to mask her allomancy. Marsh didn't react, instead continuing to look down at Kelsier in the caravan.
I should be invisible to his senses,
she thought carefully, burning both zinc and brass. She reached as Breeze had been training her to do and subtly touched Marsh's emotions. She suppressed his suspicions and inhibitions while at the same time bringing out his sense of wistfulness. Theoretically, that would make him more likely to talk.
You must have learned somewhere,
Vin asked carefully.
He'll see what I did for sure. He's going to get angry and...
I snapped when I was very young. I've had a long time to practice.
So have a lot of people.
I had reasons. They're hard to explain.
They always are,
Vin said, slightly increasing her allomantic pressure. You know how Kelsier feels about the nobility? Marsh asked, turning toward her, his eyes like ice.
Iron eyes, like they said.
She nodded to his question. Well, I feel the same way about the obligators, he said, turning away. I'll do anything to hurt them. They took our mother. That's when I snapped, and that's when I vowed to destroy them. So I joined the rebellion and started learning all I could about allomancy. Inquisitors use it, so I had to understand it. Understand everything I could. Be as good as I could. And are you soothing me? Okay, so 2 things.
Mm-hmm.
First off, I will say I have feared ever since learning that Marsh would be joining or infiltrating the obligators that he would end up betraying the crew in favor of the obligators in some way.
Yeah.
That all this talk about fascination, I've always considered it or imagined it to be a positive infatuation, so to speak. But now I see that it is very, very much the opposite. And hearing this, it makes it hard for me to imagine that he'll be siding with them in some way.
In
Even
any
if he
other
learns,
way. Yeah.
Yeah. Like, unless he learns the dark truth about the deepness and comes to believe that the Lord Ruler has to exist to continually push off the deepness. Short of that, I have a hard time imagining that he'll end up betraying the crew.
Agreed.
And also, like, my face went white when I heard him ask that question.
Are you soothing me? That was really good the way you just went into it, because it's like, wait a flippin' second. That's literally as quick as he noticed it. He was like, wait, I'm talking. What's happening? Very good.
Well, it's not a new sentence. It's literally, Inquisitors use it, so I had to understand it. Understood everything I could, apostrophe. Be as good as I could, apostrophe. And are you soothing me?
It's just so good. I loved it. And also because Vin goes, holy, she's like busy listening. And then all of a sudden, oh shit.
Vin started, abruptly extinguishing her metals. Marsh turned back toward her again, his expression cold.
Run!
Vin thought. She almost did. It was nice to know that the old instincts were still there, if a bit buried.
Yes?
She said meekly. You are good. I'd have never known if I hadn't started rambling. Stop it.
I already have.
Good. That's the 2nd time you've altered my emotions. Never do it again.
2nd time?
The 1st was in my shop 8 months ago.
That's right. Why don't I remember him? I'm sorry.
Marsh shook his head, finally turning away. You're Mistborn. That's what you do. He does the same thing. He was looking down at Kelsier. And then I was thinking again back to the Breeze lesson and how everyone perceives Breeze. And it's just, that's what you do. It's who you are.
Yeah, you're just using bits of your personality, yeah?
They sat quietly for a few moments.
Marsh, how did you know I was Mistborn? I only knew how to soothe back then.
That's not the case. You knew the other metals instinctively. You were also burning pewter and tin that day, just a tiny bit, barely noticeable. You probably got the metals from water and dining utensils. Did you ever wonder why you survived when so many others died? Vin mulled that over.
I did live through a lot of beatings, a lot of days with no food, nights spent in alleys during rain or ashfalls.
And then that just made me think, yes, remember where you come from, Vin. You are not a noble lady.
Yes, exactly. Think about that. And you had so much to survive. You were burning metals instinctively because we were under such stress. You didn't need you snapped so early you didn't even know you snapped.
Yep. Marsh nodded. Few people, even Mistborn, are so attuned to allomancy that they burn metals instinctively. That's what caught my interest. That's why I kept track of you and told Doxson where to find you. And are you pushing on my emotions again? Vin shook her head.
I promise.
Marsh frowned, studying her with one of his stony gazes.
So stern, like my brother.
Were you close?
I hated him.
Marsh's eyes lingered on Vin's, then he turned away. I see.
Do you hate Kelsier?
No, I don't hate him. He's frivolous and self-important, but he's my brother.
And that's enough.
Marsh nodded.
I have trouble understanding that.
Vin said honestly, looking out over the field of ska boxes and sacks. Your brother didn't treat you well, I presume? Vin shook her head. What about your parents? One was a nobleman. The other?
Mad. She heard voices. It got so bad that my brother was afraid to leave us alone with her. But of course, he didn't have a choice.
Okay, let's get into it, shall we?
Yeah! Woo! Big reveal.
Alt-Shift X. Alt-Shift X, that very different person that isn't Alt-Shift X. Glidus, they have prepared me for this. It's all real. She's hearing real voices, right? It's not just schizophrenia.
So is that what you I don't know. I don't know. I don't know what it I don't know.
We know prophecy is real in this world.
Mm-hmm.
Probably.
What is she hearing? Yeah, what is she what were the voices saying? And oh god, if you know what we're getting at. Oh.
We know Epigraph Man sees shades that aren't there.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
We know that Vin is special. We believe her to be the girl who's the key to everything.
Mm-hmm. What did her mom know?
What did her mom know?
What did her mom know that could have actually driven her crazy? You don't know.
Mm-hmm.
Mm-hmm. But you're saying she wasn't crazy at all. Okay.
I am so certain she was not crazy at all. I mean, she's obviously crazy, but I think there's a very real truth within the crazy that needs to be theorized and conspiracy theoried.
Where is the yarn?
Marsh sat quietly, not speaking.
How did this get turned back to me? He's no soother, yet he's getting as much out of me as I'm getting out of him. Which I wrote here, humans. I was like, yeah, because you're busy just being humans. Like earlier on, Marsh is like, are you pushing my emotions again? It's actually, no, you're just feeling comfortable with this other human and you're speaking to each other. You're sharing things normally, which goes back to our discussion about the morality of emotional animancy, where it's like, it's sort of things that people do anyway. It just is enhanced. So they turned off the emotional animancy in the previous few moments, and now it continues anyway. They are still interacting. The emotions are still interacting through the traditional human discussion.
Yes, they are kindred spirits.
Mm.
I love it. Still, it was good to speak it finally. She reached up, idly fingering her earring.
I don't remember it, but Reen said that he came home one day and found my mother covered in blood. She'd killed my baby sister. Messily. Me, however, she hadn't touched, except to give me an earring. Reen said, he said she was holding me on her lap, babbling and proclaiming me a queen, my sister's corpse at our feet. He took me from our mother, and she fled. He saved my life, probably. It's part of why I stayed with him, I guess, even when it was bad.
Big lore dump.
It hurts. It was so disturbing. It's such that the imagery is so disturbing. I just wrote holy, because and also I'm sorry that came out of nowhere. I didn't think of her having another sibling. I really didn't.
Me either. See, yeah, and that was like one of my big things was she had a sister. Whoa.
Yeah. She had a whole ass sister. Hello, and yes, it's traumatic enough that your mother tried to kill you. We already established that. We were like, oh shit, that's horrible. But the thing is, her sister was killed. That is insane. And she got this piercing on the day, basically, that her sister was killed. Oh, I feel so sick. It's insane. And I'm very proud of her for saying it out loud without emotional animancy, but still huge lore dump.
One hell of a thing to share with Marsh of all people.
Yes,
I hope
with Marsh.
he appreciates the confidants.
Yeah, I think this goes back to what you keep saying about them being kindred spirits. They're like this quiet, tortured sort of person. They share these certain characteristics that make themselves that creates this like natural comfort between them, despite them being both like they don't like untrusting. They have distrust for most people, and they're kind of like, well, Oldman, is kind of dark as well. They have this kindredness makes them share naturally, which it's beautiful.
Yes. Okay, and then back to the yarn board.
Mm-hmm.
She's a queen.
Mm-hmm.
She's going to be a queen.
Yes, that's true.
We have said many times she's the girl who's the key to everything.
She is.
We know prophecy.
Yeah, and that works. That really works. I'm grabbing that yarn. I agree.
And we got in the epigraph that I know I'm repeating myself here, but we got in the epigraph that there are things that only epigraph man can see. Why wouldn't that be the case for other people? This is all in here for a reason.
Yeah, but also remember, Vin also had more feelings than Calcia at Critic Shaw. She had different feelings. So she, being the key to everything person, special, she also feels things that other people don't feel. So that also, it's another layer of, wait a second, she might be noticing things because she is somehow like the Lord Ruler. She's got something that's like him. That's I added another piece of yarn there. Do you? You're very silent, but just I'm putting it there, okay?
It's all real.
Also, wait. Okay, so yes, I really love the whole proclaiming me a queen, but why did she have to kill the sister? It's freaking creepy and scary. But why? What made her you can take that as, I suppose, the way Vin takes it without the context of being the key to everything. She's just like, oh well, I'm the queen because I killed my sister, I survived and my sister didn't. That's what the mom meant. Like, she's the queen, ha ha ha. She lived. Like, because you think of this really crazy woman just going, look, she's the queen because she won, and my god, she had killed.
No, see, there's Harley Quinn mad, which I think is what you just did, and then there is deliberate mad, like cold. This other one's a failure. She's not special. I'm gonna kill her for the queen, in service to the queen. We cannot harm the queen.
Yeah,
but the other one, it's okay to neglect.
That makes
Vin
me think
is
that
special.
Yeah, but that makes me think that, okay, so she does have insanity. I do think she does, but she has gone insane from something real, like you said. She's gone insane from some prophecy sort of thing. That's what I think. So the insanity, I mean, you still have to be some sort of insane to kill the child also messily. What the hell? And then also like afterwards be like, yay, she's the queen. Like, that's what I'm thinking. So yes, that was it's so disturbing and great moment to become privy to.
Yeah. She glanced over at Marsh.
Still, you don't know how lucky you are having Kelsier as a brother.
I suppose. I just wish he wouldn't treat people like playthings. I've been known to kill obligators, but murdering men merely because they're noble. And that's not all. He likes people to fawn over him. He had a point. However, Vin also detected something in his voice. Jealousy?
You're the older brother, Marsh. You were the responsible one. You joined the rebellion instead of working with thieves. It must have hurt that Kelsier was the one everybody liked.
I loved that observation.
It's one of the
Feel
observations we had. It's one of the
Yeah.
observations we had. Yeah.
Still, he's getting better. The pits changed him. Her death changed him.
What's this?
Vin thought, perking up slightly. There was definitely something here too. Hurt. Deep hurt. More than a man should feel for a sister-in-law.
So that's it. It wasn't just everyone who liked Kelsier more. It was one person in particular. Someone you loved. Ha! I wrote bingo. I was like, yes, Vin, me too. I also thought that.
Yep.
She could be wrong. We could both be wrong, but I was like, yes.
I don't necessarily think Marsh is exactly trying to hide something like that. In fact, he's like downright hinting at it.
I don't know about downright. He's trying to just skip over it and act normally, but like he's not going to talk about it. He's not going to say, "Oh." I think it's just such a part of him.
Yes, but it's there.
Mhm.
You can't hide something like that.
And so Kelsier is also probably aware of it.
There's nothing in life you can get away with.
Mm-hmm.
Anyway, the arrogance of the past is behind him. This plan of his is insane, and I'm sure he's partially doing it to enrich himself. But, well, he didn't have to go to the rebellion. He's trying to do something good, though it will probably get him killed.
Why go along if you're so sure he'll fail?
Because he's going to get me into the ministry. The information I gather there will help the rebellion for centuries after Kelsier and I are dead. Vin nodded, glancing down at the courtyard. She spoke hesitantly.
Marsh, I don't think it's all behind him. The way he's setting himself up with the scar, the way they're starting to look at him.
I know. It started with that 11th metal scheme of his. I don't know that we have to worry. This is just Kel playing his usual games.
It makes me wonder why he's leaving on this trip. He'll be away from the action for a good month.
Okay, so a quick question. We kind of discussed it earlier, but remind me ultimately where we landed on this. Is this Kelsier playing his usual games, or do you think Vin's concern is well-founded?
What would his usual games be? Just going up and down, changing his not being predictable, or is it is there something more to his action here?
Just whatever games he plays that gets the masses to adore him.
Yeah, I do think he has that, and yes, he is going to inspect the army or be there, but he knows that he can inspire them and be charismatic in front of them, and as Marsh says later on, it's like he will perform for them. So maybe he's feeding this part of his ego. That is happening there, but I don't think he's only going to feed his ego. It's just a perk that he gets from doing this.
Gotcha. He'll have an entire army full of men to perform for. Besides, he needs to get out of the city. His reputation is growing too unwieldy, and the nobility is becoming too interested in the survivor. If rumors got out that a man with scars on his arms is staying with Lord Renault. Vin nodded, understanding. Right now, he's playing the part of one of Renault's distant relatives. That man has to leave before someone connects him to the survivor. When Kel gets back, he'll have to keep a low profile, sneaking into the mansion instead of walking up the steps, keeping his hood up when he's in Luthadel. Marsh trailed off, then stood. Anyway, I've given you the basics. Now you need to practice. Whenever you're with Mistings, have them burn for you and focus on their allomantic pulses. If we meet again, I'll show you more. But there's nothing else I can do until you've practiced. Vin nodded, and Marsh walked out the door without any other farewell. A few moments later, she saw him approach Kelsier and Renault again.
They really don't hate each other.
Vin thought, resting with both arms crossed atop the railing.
What would that be like?
After some thought, she decided that the concept of loving siblings was a little like the allomantic pulse lengths she was supposed to be looking for. They were just too unfamiliar for her to understand at the moment. Loved that last line. Fantastic end to that chapter.
And it does make me think, oh, well, Vin, you can practice.
Yes.
Just like you can practice the allomantic pulse lengths. Doesn't mean it's not out of your reach. This whole loving thing.
Yep.
I love that. Oh, what else was I going to say about this? Damn it, I had something else.
No.
Oh yes, Marsh. I'm really sad that this actually we won't have much interaction with Marsh unless we go into his POV, because he's going off to infiltrate. And
True.
I don't know how he'll get messages to the crew and things like that. But yeah, Vin's not going to see him. If we meet again, that's it. It is an actual if. So I'm kind of sad because he's such a complex character and I like him.
Me too.
Mm.
So that was a pretty darn fantastic chapter, I think.
Yeah, so rich and full of things, and actually kind of painful revelations there. Oh, yeah, very good. We do want to. Yeah, well, what are we looking forward to? I'm just emotionally. I need to relax.
Yeah,
after
and
the
I feel very much like I have no idea what's going to come next right now.
Same.
I have no clue what the next chapter could be.
Yes. Okay. You know what? I think that's a good way to end this discussion, because I'm feeling at a loss. I'm just like, I'm busy just having these feelings about this chapter. I don't have any expectations or any. I don't know. I just don't know what's going to happen in the next chapter, and that's okay. How do you feel about that?
I think it's fine. It's great.
It's normal.
It's normal. Yes.
You don't need to know what's happening in the next chapter. As in, like, that you don't need to know it, and it's good that we don't know. Obviously, we need to know through reading, but what I mean is, you don't need to have an idea of what's coming next. It's nice sometimes to just not have any idea or any theory. It's just, okay, what's next? Tell us, show us, please.
Yes.
I'm gonna go and read literally right now after we've ended. I need to know.
Same. So, like and subscribe to ThatDarnKitteh, please, because she's got a wonderful channel and she deserves it.
Oh my gosh, you should also subscribe to the No One Asked You podcast, because it's got a wonderful channel and he deserves it. Thank you, everybody, for sticking around, for reading with us, and I'm excited to continue.
Okay, thanks. Bye.